Today, I want to talk about things you need to let go of as you ascend. Things we let go of as we ascend. And it's a lot. I think that this is going to be in a few different chunks, but I'm going to start with 6 things today. 6 things that just start becoming too heavy for you as you ascend, as you wake up. There's this moment where you wake up. Folks who are following my content have had this moment before where you realize that a lot of the stuff that you have been told to strive after, to strive for, is based upon illusion. And that there's more to life and there's more to your purpose. There's more to who you specifically are and how you're supposed to show up in the world. And then you look around as you have this moment of awakening and you realize there's a lot of BS happening in my life. And you might even feel as though you're in this toxic web of BS sometimes. And that's when you know that you are carrying a heavy load and there are some things that you are going to need to let go of in order to ascend, in order to step into what is your true north. All right. So you may have been living a life where you were living somebody else's true north. You were embracing somebody else's dream. You were taking on the karma for other people. You were trading your dreams for their dreams, or for their disease, or for their heavy weight. Okay. And to ascend out of that, there is a huge purging process that's going to need to happen. Okay. And so I'm going to talk about what that is. So the first thing that you need to let go of as you ascend is the toxic job. Or another word for that would be grind culture. That's like one of the first things that you're going to find that becomes way too heavy for you as you ascend. And there is a book that I wrote on this topic, and you can find it wherever books are sold. It's called The Grind Culture Detox: Heal Yourself from the Poisonous Intersection of Racism, Capitalism, and the Need to Produce. I wrote The Grind Culture Detox very soon after I woke up. I had a really big spiritual awakening, actually right before COVID hit. I got a huge spiritual download of the times to come. And one of those downloads was COVID, but it was a whole bunch of other stuff, okay? I got a whole bunch of downloads in one sitting. And it was a lot, and I knew Spirit told me that I needed to make a lot of changes in order to prepare for the times ahead. At this particular time, I was in a very toxic work environment. I didn't fully understand how toxic it was until COVID hit and we were kind of going through a lot of different shifts within like work practices. But I felt like the way you know you're in a toxic job, first and foremost, is if you feel like you can't leave, that you have no other options if you leave that job, that you are in a toxic work environment. And it may not necessarily fully feel like that, but if you feel like you cannot leave and that you have no other options but to stay, even though you don't fully want to, then that is a sign of being in a toxic work environment. Okay. And so that's one of the first things that you're going to need to leave as you ascend. And so the book that I wrote, The Grind Culture Detox, is all about what that process looks like. Sometimes you might feel like you're not able to just up and leave your job, right? You got financial responsibilities and that sort of thing. But what you can start doing is, if you do feel like you're in a toxic work environment, is you can start reclaiming your sacredness throughout the workday. And I talk a lot about that in that particular book, the ways in which you're able to reclaim your sacredness within your workday. And stop necessarily giving all of your energy to your job. A lot of times we've been taught that we need to be overproductive in order to be seen. We need to give all of our life force or our life essence to a particular job in order for us to be seen as worthy and valuable. And I think we're overstanding now that that's just not the way that this thing goes. And we have to choose us, right? So the first thing that you want to let go of as you ascend is the toxic job. Also grind culture, this toxic form of productivity where you feel like you need to give to others before you give to yourself. You need to power up other dreams before you power up your own dreams. This is a huge form of energy harvesting, which has kept the false matrix going time and time again, is this feeling like we need to give our life force and our life essence to something that is outside of ourselves. So that is the first thing you're going to need to let go of as you ascend: grind culture and or the toxic job. Okay, because another thing is you could leave the toxic job and then you could become an entrepreneur and still be wrapped up in grind culture. That's something else I needed to contend with after quitting, was this idea of, okay, but my consciousness is still enslaved. My consciousness still feels like I need to give my life force and essence in order to be productive. So when you leave the toxic job, when you break up with grind culture, you are going through a very large deprogramming process in your journey, okay? You are deprogramming your consciousness, and you are essentially saying that you are enough as you are right now, and that you don't need to be doing anything for anybody to feel enough. Easier said than done, I know, because so much of our programming since we were little kids, right? If you think about the question that you got asked when you were a little kid, what was it? It was, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was the most simplest question that you got asked over and over again. And a lot of times what ended up happening is that we even program ourselves to ask that to little kids now, right? What do you want to be when you grow up? Always looking into the future, always looking into how you're going to be able to produce, okay? So as we ascend, as we raise in consciousness, that's the first thing that we're letting go. Now, the second thing that we're letting go as we ascend and raise in consciousness is toxic friendships, all right? So I think the big thing about waking up and deciding that you are wanting to participate in a new earth, in a new way of living, dreaming, and being. It's exciting, right? And you have this moment of hope, of extreme optimism, of extreme dreaming and creativity. And you start dwelling in possibility of how things could be. And you want to gravitate towards a community of folks that are on that ascension path, right? That are looking to embody a new way of living, being, and dreaming. However, you might have friendships that you have had for a really long time, right? You might have had friends that were considered your ride or die, or you've known them since X amount of time, right? So you start feeling this obligation to these friendships, right? You start feeling like you owe these people something because you've known them for so long. That is another program within the false matrix, okay? Because the way that you know if a friendship is toxic is if a friend, I'm even going to put that in quotation marks, if they are not liking the new person that you're turning into, right? Because as you wake up, you start letting a lot of things go, your interests start changing. And so you might have these friendships where they're just constantly like reminding you of who you used to be. Or, oh, well, you didn't used to do that. Oh, remember when you were like this? Remember when we did this? Oh, that's not you. Like constantly trying to limit who you can become, right? Put you in this little box, right? You're over here blooming, but they want to keep you as this little bonsai plant where they're trimming you, okay? And this is just a part of the program of the false matrix. A lot of times the friend circles that we're in, they're not really friendships sometimes. A lot of times they're kind of there to keep us in that crabs in a bucket mentality, right? So we end up making these friend groups at a very young age, usually when we're in a certain school system and that sort of thing. And the school system in itself is a program as well. And then you keep up with these friend groups, and you are, as you stay within these friend groups, you stay within a certain frequency. You stay within a certain bandwidth, okay? But if you're trying to raise in frequency, if you're trying to expand your bandwidth, those same friend groups are going to be programmed if they're not awakening or if they're not on the ascension path. And this is no judgment either, right? This isn't to say, oh, well, I'm better than them because I'm awakening and I'm ascending. No. So that's, we're going to definitely need to do a lot of ego training on our journey, because that's a trap that we can all fall into of like, well, I'm raising in consciousness and y'all can stay over there. Like, no. What I will say though is that we each get the opportunity to grow and to be on whatever path that we're on. And if you're feeling shamed for taking a certain path, if you're feeling shamed for wanting to be your true and authentic self, and you're being shamed by these friends, those aren't your friends, okay? Doesn't matter how long y'all have been with each other. Doesn't matter how long y'all have been rocking with each other. Here's the thing, friendship and, the new way of relating to folks is to really let people be, grow, and expand, right? And, some of those really great friendships are the ones where you don't have to check in with them every single day. But when y'all do connect, like you guys are connecting on a soul resonance and a soul level, those are the true friendships, right? So a true friend is going to let you do you, is not going to feel the need to constantly check in on you, right? Almost as if they're like your parole officer or some weird stuff like that. It can really, if you start feeling policed by your friends, that's a sign, okay? That's a sign of a toxic friendship, right? So if you start making yourself a little bit more unavailable to certain people and they lash out, then you know that you were in an energy harvesting relationship, okay? Because they weren't just there to be supportive to you. They were there to get something from you. And when you kind of pull back, even though that's just within your resonance to want to do, right? Because you want to explore, you want to grow, or you just need a lot of alone time. When you're on an ascension path, there's a lot of time that you need to have for self-reflection, right? And if folks are starting to lash out at you for wanting to have that, then that's a really great indication that that's a friendship that you might need to evolve out of. And if you're feeling shamed for that, just know that that is a part of the program, all right? That is a part of the program to keep you within a certain frequency bandwidth so that you're resonating within the false matrix and that you're not expanding out of that, okay? And so, I've been a people pleaser for a lot of years in my life. I'm not that anymore, far from it. But I have been the person who has wanted to be nice and has wanted to get along with everybody. So I can totally relate to this, and I can totally relate to how hard it can feel, and you don't want to feel like the bad person, right? But at the same time, if you're feeling really oppressed by some of the relationships that you are around, then, you might even want to switch up your number for a little bit, just to kind of, if you really just kind of need a clean slate, you can switch up your number, and then certain people that you're resonating with on a more organic frequency, you can give them the new number, that sort of thing. You can just start detaching. And, this is about your growth. Not everybody can go with you. Not everybody should go with you. We are organic beings who have different soul purposes and missions. And we are moving into a resonance in which we are going to start gravitating to folks who respect that, who respect our journey and respect our path. And anybody who tries to talk smack about you or tries to degrade you because you are expanding in your frequency bandwidth, they were not a friend, okay? And it's good that you're letting them go, all right? And so that is one thing to ascend out of, because if not, you will be enmeshed in this toxic web of this crabs in the bucket mentality, okay? Because seriously, people are going to be programmed to kind of pull you back down into the frequency bandwidth. And a lot of times they're doing this on an unconscious or a subconscious level, but it's because they're tapped into this programming of the false and phantom matrix, okay? So to make sure that I'm just... the topic of this live is things you let go of as you ascend. We're letting go of the toxic job and grind culture. We're letting go of toxic friendships. The third thing that we're letting go of is the toxic relationship. And what I mean by this is I mean the toxic romantic relationship. This is a lot more difficult than letting go of the friendship sometimes. A lot of times, why is it more difficult? Because you're more connected with this person. Usually you're connected with them in more of a sexual way, all right? So you are exchanging sexual energy, and that is a huge cord of attachment that's happening, okay? Sex is a very sacred act. Unfortunately, in the false matrix, what it's been utilized to do is it's been utilized to actually to hook people, to keep people, to siphon energy. Unfortunately, it's been used as an energy harvesting tactic. A lot of y'all might even be in marriages where you're you wake up, right? And you realize that you want to ascend, into the new earth, right? And then you realize that your partner that you're with, the person that you're married to, is literally on the complete opposite side of that. They want to stay exactly the same, and they see that it's a threat, that you are shifting your consciousness. This gets really difficult. I have been there. I understand this, or I overstand this, I should say, okay? You're living with this person. You're sharing the same bed with this person. You have kids maybe with this person. Your finances are together with this person. What a toxic web we weave, right? How do we move past? I would love to debate you on my live. It's so funny that you said that, because one of the things I was going to say to let go of, I actually took it off for this one. I was going to wait for another one, but it was going to be arguing. That's another thing that you let go of on your ascension path, is arguing. Like, I was a big debater. Don't get me wrong. Like, I loved to debate. I loved to just argue. Like, in another life, I would have been a lawyer, hands down. I love having receipts. I love having the posts or the different articles to cite my sources, all that kind of stuff. But I've actually let that go. I'm a talker, I'm a researcher, but I'm also like, hey, if you're vibing with me, let's vibe, right? And if you have a question, like, I'll answer your question, but I'm not going to defend my case to anybody, right? Because it's not my, like, I'm rooted and in my sovereignty, and I also respect if somebody else has a completely different viewpoint than me, right? But I don't have to debate. I don't have to argue. All right. So respectfully, thank you for thinking of me, but I would never debate anybody on the live. Okay. So as I was saying, that toxic relationship, Poetic Aesthetic says, I feel that 1,000%. Yeah. Like so let's see. I studied spirituality. West 4B says, I studied spirituality, reincarnation, and the origins of it during the Greco-Roman Empire. Oh, okay. I've been, I'm doing a lot of ancestral healing as it relates to that time period. So, yeah, I'm still investigating, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm uncovering in my own genetic lineage as it relates to the Romans, specifically. So, I'm not in a place to even comment on that yet, because I'm still kind of processing through that, but I'm sure at one point I'll have some more insights on that. Yeah. So, all that to be said, the toxic relationship. Okay. How do we do this? There's no easy way. There's no easy way. It's so interesting. I'm really interested. I'm very entertained by this whole sprinkle movement that's happening. I have a very like esoteric take on it, but it does tie into this whole leaving of the toxic relationship. So a lot of times you'll find in this toxic relationship that you're in, that you're giving more than you may feel like you're receiving in return, okay? And then we have this clap back with the whole sprinkle of I think what they call it, drizzle, right? And so this whole idea of placing and equating money with love and stuff, because that was one thing that was really difficult for me when I was thinking about getting a divorce, was like, how am I gonna afford getting a divorce? Like, I don't even know if I can afford this. And I started doing research on it, and this was, I actually did a podcast on this, and I was talking about this like about 3 years ago. Nobody cared, nobody wanted to hear it, but I feel like now it's a little bit more of a different climate. I think a lot of people are a lot more fed up than they were a few years ago. But the research shows that like divorce rates, at least about a couple years ago, were the lowest they had ever been since the 1950s, they said. And it's because of the economic climate, because people literally didn't feel like they could afford to get a divorce. And what was interesting was that there was this movement that was happening where people started getting a divorce when they were elderly, or kind of like more senior citizens, like starting from 55 on up, they started getting divorced, because finally the kids were raised. They were about to end their lives, or not end their lives, but they were about to, they're in the last phases of their life. They're in a different phase of their life. And they're like, I don't want to end this, married to somebody that I can't stand, or married to somebody that I don't love. And so people, interestingly enough, the older generation is more likely to divorce because of this, because their finances are a little bit more in order, because the kids are raised, and because they are ready to really get the most out of life before they pass away. And I kind of just thought that was BS. Like, do I literally, like, that's a form of enslavement. That's another part of the enslavement of the false matrix, to make you feel like you need to be stuck with this person in order to thrive within the false matrix. And I put that in quotation marks, because if you are on the ascension path and you, oh, okay, Khalifa says, I don't think I'll legally get married for that reason. It's so funny. I used to be so team, like, put a ring on it. Like, I'm not going to take any dude seriously if they're not, you know, have a marriage mindset, this and this and that. Like, I was so programmed in the false matrix a few years back. So I was very much like, you know, marriage was a part of the status, right? And in a lot of ways, like, society supported that, because I got more accolades getting married than anything else I've ever done in my life. And I've done a lot. And I was like, damn, I was kind of like salty about it too. I'm like, y'all are over here, like, really congratulating me for getting married. Like, where were y'all when I got my graduate degree, when I traveled the world, like, when I did all this other stuff? Y'all didn't care. But now I'm married. Like, I'm a status. I have status as a woman. So anyways, I was involved in that brainwashing. Okay, so that was another thing that was very difficult for me to let go as I was in my ascension path of, like, I have to let go of the status of being a married woman, and I have to let go of an income, you know, like all these shared bills, all that kind of stuff. So I get it. Okay, it was the hardest thing. I think of all the things that I'm listing today, this leaving of the toxic relationship is going to be the hardest, because you're also going to notice those same toxic friendships that you're stepping out of. Those are going to be the people that tell you, oh, you need to stay with him. Doesn't matter how that person is treating you, or this sort of thing. Like, you need to stay with them. You know, there's this whole thing of, like, you have to, that you basically have to, like, put up with misery, right? Because a lot of other people are doing it. And so it's like, if you leave that paradigm, then they will look at their own lives as, oh snap, like, am I settling? And so if they're not ready to hold the mirror to themselves, they're going to project everything out to you, and you're going to be the wrong one, right? And they do that to basically protect their own sense of security. Okay. Khalifa says, separating from my ex who I lived with is hard enough. Yeah. Marriage, man, is very difficult to get divorced. It is so difficult to get divorced. Like, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I would just say, choose you, you know, like, I felt like there was no way I could do it. There was just no way. And I created a way, and I created a way that worked organically for my ascension path. And, you know, it was a big process of manifestation and co-creation and revoking a lot of soul contracts, reprogramming my subconscious mind. But I can say, like, it is so worth it. You know, no amount of money, no status or whatever is worth you feeling oppressed by somebody that you are sharing a bed with and that you are sharing a house with. Okay. Like, you are too multidimensional and expansive for that. So I would just say, yes, it's very difficult to do. It's one of the most difficult things, but it's worth it. And you have to choose you at some point, because once again, on this ascension path, not everybody can go with you on this path. Okay. And you might spend some time trying to get this person on this journey with you. But what you're going to find, if you try to make somebody do this, like, they'll actually just have the exact opposite reaction, you know, and they have to choose this on their own, you know. And if you're holding on to this person, there might be somebody else out there that is more of a resonance for you, is more of an energetic match for you, right? And if you are not actually, like, allowing yourself to spread your wings, and let go of the fourth thing that I'm going to discuss today, then you're just going to imprison yourself. It is a prison. Unfortunately, marriage has been created to be a prison within this false matrix system. Okay. And I say that as somebody, I've tried it. I used to be team marriage. You know what I mean? Like, I was a believer in that. I'm a Capricorn. If y'all know about Capricorns, you know how we are with tradition and all that stuff. I had to let a lot of that stuff go. Okay. So I'm on the other side of it, and I don't think I'm going to do it again. I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I tried it. I needed to try it to come to this realization. But, the way it is now, I'm not saying that loving relationships are not possible. I'm saying the way that the institution of marriage is set up now, specifically in our society as it relates to finances, and this whole question around like emotional labor and all that kind of stuff, like, it is a prison system. My opinion, that's just what I say. Oh, you love Capricorns. What's my nationality? Captain J says, what's my nationality? I'm U.S. I'm from the U.S. I'm rarely in the U.S. these days, but I am from there. Yes, Capricorn. I love me some Capricorns. We get a bad rap. I understand why I overstand why we get a bad rap. I'm actually, my whole family, I'm from a whole bunch of Capricorns. Mom and dad were Capricorns, like very Saturnian family. Yeah. So now moving on to number 4. So once again, things you need to let go of as you ascend: the toxic job, aka grind culture, the toxic friendships, okay, the crabs in the bucket mentality, the toxic relationship. All right. Number 4, codependency. This is really difficult. This ties into a lot of the other things that we were talking about, but codependency is a state of mind. Codependency is very difficult to get rid of. It's something I'm still working on. Like, it comes in phases. It's like peeling an onion. You peeling off the onions of codependency. This idea that you are only worth something or if X is in your life, okay? You are only worthy if you are being dependent on. You are only worthy if you are in a relationship. You are only worthy if you are around X amount of people when you go out, okay? Codependency is also tied to being dependent upon substances, which is another thing I'm going to talk about that we need to let go of as we ascend. And once again, everything I'm talking about, I've been on the journey, okay? I've had to let go of these things. So I'm coming at this from not you need to blah, 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 but I've been there and it hurt and I cried a lot and I went through a lot of trauma regarding these things. But being on the other side of a lot of these things now, I'm just sharing some of my my learnings from it. Okay, so codependency is just this idea that you are only worthy if something else is outside of you. And I know that this is easier said than done. We live in a codependent society. If we think about consumerism, right? There's always something to buy to enhance our appearance or to make us feel more valuable and worthy, okay? So this isn't something where it's just I let go of codependency and then I moved on. No, it's a constant process. But as you let go of the toxic job, the toxic friendships, the toxic relationship, you start spending more time with yourself and actually learning who you are. As you've been wrapped up in a lot of these fake relationships, they were fake, y'all. A lot of this stuff was fake. And you'll start noticing how fake these things were when you let them go, right? And, it starts off all great. And then when it ends, right, you see the whole other side of that person, okay? That's because a lot of this was based upon an illusion. And as you leave this illusion, then you start seeing things as they are, okay? So a lot of the things that you were bolstering yourself up with, they were fake, okay? So what's left is you. What's left is your spirit. What's left is your soul essence and connecting with that. Because while you were involved in all these fake codependent relationships, then you were basically just you were basically out of your own true north, okay? And when you're out of your own true north, it's so easy for you to be manipulated. It is so easy for your energy to be harvested. I have been in situations when I was really in the false matrix and I was doing well for society standards where I never had a moment of free time. There was always something that was asking of my energy or taking of my energy, those kinds of things. Okay. I never really had time to myself to process. And when I did, I felt weird. Like I felt like, oh no, I should be doing something else. That's a sign that you're probably enmeshed in codependent patterning. Of like, when you do have the alone time, you're like, oh wait, I shouldn't have this alone time. I should be, no. That's a program. That's because you're in this program of filling up your space. Okay. Oh, thank you, Khalifa. Khalifa says it has been a journey. Your Patreon is next level. I'm ready. Now, thank you for that, Khalifa, because for folks who are ready to take the deep dive, all this stuff I'm talking about it takes a lot of subconscious repatterning, okay? And my Patreon is a space for folks who are ready to dive into the work, okay? You are the key. All right. But a lot of the meditations, first of all, the meditations that I cultivate on my Patreon, it's not something that you're going to just find on the internet, like on YouTube, that sort of stuff. Trust me, I tried. I started creating these meditations because I was like, I need to access certain parts of my unconscious or subconscious. And I wasn't getting there through a lot of the meditations that I was finding publicly. So, going down my own path of opening up my Akashic records, seeing where the toxic programs that I was experiencing and how they were impacting me, it actually led me to creating this community for folks who are on this ascension path and are ready to change and transform their lives from the inside out, as opposed to the outside in, which is what normally we're trained to do. Okay, so this does mean going into the past lives, going into your parallel lives, going into your Akashic records, healing your inner family, healing your inner children. Yes, I said inner children. We don't just have an inner child, we have inner children. There's a lot of stuff. And one thing I'm so grateful for, as I left the toxic job, as I left the toxic friendships, as I left the toxic relationships, that's one thing that I learned, was that a lot of the reasons why I got involved and enmeshed in these things, it had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with me and what I thought my value and worth was. Okay, I had to really start looking at the way I was raised, the sort of programs that I accepted, and I had to start deleting those programs and doing a really big task of reprogramming my subconscious mind. Okay, and it's a blessing. None of these things, as much pain as they caused me, and as much pain it was to extricate myself from these programs, it's such a blessing, because I wouldn't have the level of self-awareness and the comfort, and not the comfort in myself, but the sovereignty, okay? Knowing that the answer is always me, okay? And that I had to let go of a lot of fake relationships, a lot of fake programs to get there. But those fake relationships were a blessing, okay? So anything that's coming into your life that feels so oppressive to you, see it as a blessing, right? And see it as, well, what unhealed aspect of me is being reflected in this person? It's always you, y'all. It is always you. If you're ready for that deep dive, you can go to the link on my Patreon on my little bio thing and sign up and just, give it a try. See what happens for a month, right? See what breakthroughs you're able to make. Okay. A lot of comments came through. Let me, okay. So I'm saying, thank you for sharing the live. Yeah, if there's somebody who could benefit from this, share it with them. Captain J says, "Are you not for marriage?" I don't want to ever say never. There's a lot of things I'm doing now that I said I would never do. So I don't want to say never, but I'm going to say I'm not really interested. I'm very much not interested. It's too much of at least at this point in my life, so there could always be something different that happens, but at this phase I'm just not interested. Yes, let's see. Okay, so local anarchist, says your indigo child video helped me quite a bit, so I followed. Thank you. Yes. The indigo type 3, I think you're talking about. I actually have more content on that on my YouTube. You can follow my YouTube channel, The Goddess Keys, and I go into more long form content. If you are an indigo, especially if you're an indigo type 3, then you should definitely check out the YouTube, because I have some content on that. And I also have some content specifically on the Patreon, related to guided meditations for indigo type 3. So thank you and welcome to the space. Okay. Love is not an easy game. LOL. Mon Chai says, any tips on the integration phase? It's you. Always, whenever, my biggest tip I can give you is that however you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing in your reality, take full responsibility for it. And this is going to go into one of the other things that I'm going to share about things you let go of as you ascend. But you're going to come up with a lot of barriers because it's going to seem like it's everybody else. Like, why is everybody treating me like this? And it's going to feel like that. It's going to feel like sometimes the world is against you, that sort of thing. But if you say, I command my reality, right? If you really work on commanding your reality and commanding your frequency. And so one thing that's going to support you with that is subliminals, listening to subliminals. So I have a lot of free subliminals on my YouTube channel, The Goddess Keys. I have like a whole playlist and for different things, but stay in the frequency, right, that you want to obtain. So you might feel like shit, right? And you might just be having a really bad day and you could just be crying your eyes out. You could just feel like you have no hope. Just spend the day doing the subliminals, okay? While you're cleaning, while you're doing errands, while you're taking a walk, just get into a certain frequency. Also utilize crystal frequencies. So a lot of times in our society, we're taught, oh, go to the crystal shop and get this crystal, get that crystal. Yeah, you can do that. That's cool. But even moving past that, like you don't even need that consumerism aspect to connect with the earth, okay? You can connect with the frequency of a crystal and you can connect with that frequency through meditation. There's a lot of meditations on YouTube that have that. Most of my subliminals have a crystal frequency for what we're tapping into. And I would highly suggest, let's say that, I'm just thinking off top, let's say that you need confidence, right? A really good color for that would be yellow. A really good crystal for that would be citrine. You know, it's very joyful, very confident, very exuberant. Go on YouTube, type in citrine crystal frequency. Boom. Start playing that frequency, okay? And then that's going to help you. You can even do a meditation with that crystal without even physically having it. If you physically have that crystal, it makes it even more of an enhancement, but you don't even physically need it. So it's about your frequency. So that would be the biggest thing I would say for integration is switching up your frequency. And that's something you can do in a split second. It's actually really magical the way that you're able to shift your frequency. And I've seen it. I've seen my reality shift, y'all. From I started one frequency, one part of the day, did my crystal frequency, did my meditation, literally was on a completely different frequency. My reality shifted just by doing that. This stuff really, really, really works, okay? So, get to the point where you know that you command your reality. If you're having a difficult time doing that, utilize the frequency of crystals and colors to support you with this and to get into the frequency that you're looking to get into. Okay, so things that you need to let go of as you ascend. We talked about the toxic job and grind culture. I got a book out called The Grind Culture Detox. Just type that into Google, you'll find it. If you're looking about if you're trying to figure out how to detach from the toxic job, toxic friendships, let the crabs in the bucket go, get out of the bucket. Just get out of the bucket. Do it respectfully, do it with love, but get out of the bucket. Switch up your number if you have to. Whatever you have to do, just exit. Get out of the toxic relationship, okay? Know that you are worth so much more. If you're feeling oppressed by the person that you are sharing a bed with, sharing your sexual energy with, just think about what's happening on the spiritual plane. If you're feeling like that in the physical, think about what's going on in the spiritual, okay? And thank you for the rose, local anarchist. Thank you so much. I'm still getting this whole I don't know. This is my first time on this platform. So thank you guys for roses and all that sort of stuff. Captain J says, I'm not familiar with the indigo type. So just go on my TikTok after this live, and I got 3 TikTok videos on it. Dive into that content. Then go on to my YouTube, and I got some more long form content, and then you'll be all caught up. Okay. But basically it's just this idea of feeling like you sometimes feel like you have two consciousnesses that you are integrating within one body, one mind. You have like these different consciousnesses with ulterior motives. And a lot of times, like indigo type 3s, they get labeled as like autistic. A lot of times indigo type 3s have a lot of issues around substance abuse. A lot of times indigo type 3s feel like it's them against the world. So I even have a video talking about different celebrities that I think are indigo type 3s to give some context around like archetypes. So yeah, dive into that. You know, a lot of folks relate to that. There's a lot of indigo type 3s out here. Actually, it's not talked about a lot, but there's a lot of us out here. Okay. So also let go of codependency. Number 4, I'm getting into the number 5 thing that you need to let go of, which is drugs and alcohol. Once again, this is not a finger wagging thing, okay? This is, I have been there, okay? I used to be somebody, first of all, I used to have a huge cannabis dependency. When I was immersed in grind culture and toxic productivity, and I was immersed in my toxic friendships, and I was immersed in my toxic marriage, I was very dependent upon cannabis and wine. I liked me a good glass of red wine too. But I loved me my gummies, and I loved my joints and all that kind of stuff. And I lived in California at the time. So, you know how the dispensary culture out there is in California. And I'm the type, like I was always like more type A. So I never messed with cannabis until it became legalized because, I didn't want to get caught or, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I heavily depended upon cannabis. And I was at a point where I didn't think I could live without it. I didn't think I could go one day without it. There were times where I didn't think I could go 4 hours without it. Okay. So I have been on the highly dependent side of cannabis, spent hundreds of dollars a month on cannabis. Okay. Hundreds. Okay. So I understand what it means to feel like you can't let this go. Okay. I am on the complete other side of it now. Now I don't care. It's not something that I think about. I just get joy from I can self-source my own joy now. And I didn't think I would have been able to do that. So if there's anybody who is tapping in to this live right now, that's like, yeah, that's easier said than done, but I can't let that go. I don't know how to, trust me, I've been there. Okay. Same thing with wine, love me a good winery. Love doing that. Okay. Used to be more of a day drinker than a night drinker. So I loved that sort of thing. But, you get to a point where you realize like, and my spiritual team, they ran up on me. Like they were just, my reality made it so I had to give it up. There was no choice, and it was really hard. It was really, really difficult. I went through a big period of shadow work. Something that helped me was I did a 10-day challenge. And so for the 10 days, I was like, okay, if I could do 10 days with no substances, let me just start there, 10 days. And I was able to I lived like a monk for those 10 days. Once again, I told you my reality shifted so where I had to do this, and it just, my spiritual team just kind of set things up to where like, no, you're going to sit here with your shadow. You're going to deal with your shadow. All the things that make you want to take the gummy, all the things that make you want to light up, you're going to like sit with it instead. And you're going to process through it, And I utilized, I don't know if I would recommend this now, but one thing I did utilize, I was working a lot with Hindu deities called the 10 Mahavidyas. And I did a 10 Mahavidya challenge. So each day that I wasn't doing a substance, I focused on a certain Mahavidya, and I turned that whole day into learning about that Mahavidya, embodying the color of that Mahavidya and all that kind of stuff. That helped me a lot, and it helped me to keep going, to keep going, And I'm a big fan of harm reduction. And I talk about that in my book, The Grind Culture Detox, too. Like, I don't necessarily think that you're always going to be able to go cold turkey, Cannabis was the first thing that had to go for me, I felt. Also, a lot of people might say, okay, well, that's from the earth. Like, why would you let that go? That's natural. It's here for us to heal. And that's probably true. But I wasn't getting no cannabis from the organic garden, I was getting it from the dispensaries. You know, that stuff is full with like chemicals. Okay. And, I don't know. I don't trust it personally. And I also felt like I was at a point where I was utilizing cannabis to tap in with spirit. So I also felt like, oh, because a lot of people tell me like, it makes I connect more when I'm communing with cannabis. And that's true, especially if you're caught up in grinding it out and your to-do list and all that stuff. Sometimes when you take in that substance, you are able to like be more in flow and you have more fun and all that kind of stuff. But you get to this point where you let go of codependency and you realize that if you feel like you have to get that out of something outside of yourself, then it's a codependency, and it's because you are hiding from a really big shadow aspect. Okay. So yeah, so, you know, some things that supported me with letting go of the substances was yoga, getting more into a yoga practice. So it's like switching it out, like do something when you think about the craving. So tea was a big one for me. I started experimenting with different teas. Kava is really good. And Blue Lotus is really good too. What's another one that I use? I use Kava, Blue Lotus, Valerian root. Valerian root is really good for just relaxing your muscles and kind of getting you in that vibe of cannabis, but it doesn't have any of those the highs or whatever. I even did CBD for a while. I started with like started doing CBD more, and then, you know, stopped with that too. So I'm big on harm reduction, you know, and then there would be times like sometimes like during the holidays, like, okay, I might have a glass of wine and or all that stuff, or I would have like alcohol removed wine. But I started noticing like, you know, this just happened. I had like some wine during the holidays and my body rebelled against me. Like I just broke out and like all this acne. I'm like, I don't ever get acne. And now like, it was just like funny. My body was just like, okay, you want to play games? Like, we don't want that in our body, in our bodies. So yes, join the Patreon Poetic Aesthetic. Okay, let me just make sure I'm catching up with these contents. Hold on. Yes, the reefer, you know, look, I'm harm reduction. That's all I'm going to say is harm reduction. So I used to smoke a lot. I smoked a lot of joints, and then I was coughing, and it was getting real nasty. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to do joints anymore. I'm just going to do gummies. Then I started doing way too many gummies to where I couldn't even feel the gummies anymore. And I was like, all right, the gummies got to go. So it takes stages. It takes layers. Khalifa says, same, conquered those this year. I have a drink from time to time, but I regret it every time. Yeah, now I'm like, it's not even worth it anymore because I don't like how I feel the next day. It, you know, like I'm not going to say never. I'm never ever going to take another drink in my life, or I'm never going to smoke again in my life, but it's just not something that I base my life around anymore. I don't depend on it. And so I would say getting out of the dependency of things, you know, I wouldn't join a 12-step program personally. I didn't have to do it. I did my own kind of 12-step sort of thing that aligned with where I was on my spiritual journey. But just getting out of the feeling like you need it to get up in the morning or to go about your day. Okay. Thank you. Why are my eyes so far apart? I don't know. This is how I am. I joined when you said gummies don't work. LOL. Yeah. And that's big because y'all know I was taking the strong gummies too. You know, if the gummies start working, you taking too many gummies. Okay. So anyway, the last one is, all right, I'm going to re-say the things you need to let go of as you ascend. The toxic job, AKA grind culture, the toxic friendships, the toxic relationship, codependency, drugs and alcohol, and last one, victim mentality. Okay. This kind of all like goes in together because victim mentality is another hard thing to let go of. Victim mentality is, why is everyone against me? Why is this happening? Why is that? Why, the ability to stop seeing yourself as a victim. Yeah, Patrick, PM me. the ability to stop seeing yourself as a victim, and that goes back to that comment I made earlier, is like learning and knowing that it's always you. No matter what's happening in your world, if you take full responsibility for it, and this is why it's really important to go into your subconscious mind, because you might have a past life that's playing out in your current reality. You may have a parallel life that's playing out in your current reality. Yes, parallel lives really do exist. You might be getting really mistreated by somebody right now in your life. And in a parallel reality, you are the one mistreating that person. And what could be happening in this moment is there's a bleed through between the two realities, and you are getting a lot of the karmic returns for that. It does go that deep. False Matrix don't want you to know that. False Matrix wants you to think that we are only on linear time. And if we do that, then yes, we stay in victim mentality. But once we start seeing ourselves as multidimensional beings and taking full responsibility for what shows up in our reality, and this is some kind of like spiritual kung fu master type stuff that we got to get into, okay? That means, and that means having the free time to do this, making the free time to go into your subconscious mind. Sometimes you need to collapse timelines. Sometimes you need to get to the seed cause of something, and then you can see that start shifting in your reality. Sometimes there's a soul contract that you committed to be exploited, to be abused, to be underpaid, all of these things. Sometimes you have soul contracts that you are following out, that you'll need to rewrite and all that sort of stuff. That's what I mean by dropping the victim mentality. That's not to say that you just take mistreatment and that you just do, you just kind of accept your life as is or accept any kind of old treatment. But what it does mean is it's like, dang, what did I consent to in my subconscious mind that's making this show up, right? And going back into the records, switching stuff up. And it's going to be really cool when you start seeing the way you're able to shift your reality, okay? If you are feeling really sad, or if you're feeling really bored or that sort of thing, taking full responsibility for your reality. All the stuff there is to do, all the past lives there is to transmute, and the parallel lives there is to transmute, and the stuff you can call into your reality, why are you bored? That's a victim mentality, okay? So it's like taking full accountability for your reality, okay? If you're feeling sad or whatever, like you're on the frequency of sadness, let's get you into the frequency of joy, okay? Taking full responsibility to connect with the things that are going to get you into the frequency of joy, okay? Yes, Khalifa, you are definitely the villain on another timeline. If you have a villain in your life right now, you are the most certainly a villain. And that's the one thing I'm going to be doing more content around, this concept of the bigger your light, the bigger your shadow. The people, and so let's think about this. The people we see as our spiritual gurus right now, watch out for those guru types, y'all. Watch out for the gurus, okay? Because the bigger their light is on the physical plane, then there's a bigger shadow that needs to be transmuted on the spiritual plane. I've had to transmute so many parallel realities, and the way that this works, this is how the false matrix works with this. If you don't fully integrate your shadow or own your shadow, it's up for grabs because you didn't claim it. So you could have a shadow aspect of yourself that was wounded years back or wounded from your ancestry that you have decided to not claim, to pretend like it's not there, or you don't know it's there. That shadow is up for grabs for some other being or entity to use for their own purposes. And if you're not conscious of that, then what will happen is that this disowned aspect of yourself will be used for some other being's manipulative purposes. This is how the false matrix has run. This is why the false matrix doesn't want us to heal, doesn't want us to transmute trauma, is because of this. But when we start taking full responsibility for our reality, and we start saying, you know what? Like if I am the angel, I'm also the devil. Somewhere in some realm of existence, then you can go and reclaim that, and bring that devilish aspect, quotation marks. I believe in polarity integration, so As big as your light is, that's how deep your shadow is, okay? And now you can start seeing the way some people show up to you in your current reality is because there is a very deep shadow aspect. You could be oppressing them on another realm, or you could have oppressed them in another lifetime, and they're your karmic payback right now. If you revoke the soul contract, if you integrate the shadow, if you retrieve that aspect of your soul, then you can bring that into the light, and you're more powerful, you're more sovereign, okay? You integrate more of your wholeness. But if we're just kind of hiding from our shadow and we just want to be holier than thou, like, I'm only a light worker. No, if you're a light worker, you're a shadow worker. And if you are only claiming yourself as a light worker, you're more likely just in your shadow. Okay, so that's the sixth theme. Anything that's in your reality, get out of the victim mentality of it. Claim yourself as the creator, God, goddess that you are. Okay, and then watch the magic unfold. And let me see, I just want to make sure. Yes, the villain or the gurus. Oh shit. The gurus. I've been having to deal with a lot of this guru stuff. That's a whole other life. This whole cult guru mentality. It's deep, y'all. If y'all are connected to any gurus, if you've had any gurus in your life that's been real close to you, check in on what's going on with y'all in the spiritual plane. Cut the cords, pull the cords, revoke the soul contracts, because they're powerful for a reason. They're powerful on this plane for a reason. They're building their power off of the masses. Okay. So yes, the cult guru is my villain. Yep. They're going to show up in your dreams. They're going to do this weird energy harvesting in your dreams and stuff. So pull that cord, but also go into your parallel life, because you'll find that you might be the guru in your parallel life. I was having a lot of stuff show up in my reality related to cults. Cults just found me, and they don't present themselves as cults. A lot of times they present themselves as corporations that give you good benefits and all that kind of stuff. But I was just like, damn, why do I just got out of this work cult. Why is this other work cult coming to me? Why do I keep attracting cults? It was like so annoying, because it's like, I want to be sovereign. What's happening? When I started doing the parallel life integration, I was a cult leader in one of my parallel lives, y'all. It was hilarious. I was like, what? And so there was a bleed through that was happening in my current reality. So I was pointing my finger at cults and cult leaders in the present, but in the parallel, I was one of them. Okay. That's some deep shadow work. Okay. That is some deep shadow work. That is a prime example of getting out of victim mentality. Okay. I've been there. I've been through it all. Okay. It's true. I was so mad because I was in this parallel life. I was like, all the things that I would laugh at, or that I would be like, ugh, roll my eyes at, like everybody was wearing white. We were all meditating, and I had my white turban all white on, and we were just ascending together. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Anyway, appalling. So anyways, those are some of the things that you're going to let go of as you ascend. This is going to be a series, because I'm sorry, y'all, the list is kind of long. I just gave y'all 6. But yeah, as you ascend, you're going to start letting go of more and more things, But it's rewarding. You come back home to yourself. You're more integrated into your spirit and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to take the deep dive, join the Patreon. I also do consultations, ascension consultations. So connect with me, personal message me if you want this, want something like that. And also, this is my only account. I'm also going live now because I'm just sick of all these imposters. These imposters can't go live. At least not yet. Okay. At least not yet. Only I can go live. Okay. They don't have a bot that looks like me yet. I hope not. So anyways, this is my only channel. If there's any other content creators that have my name that you are following, or that are following you, or that are PMing you, DMing you, like, just block them. They're not me. This is my only account. Yes, the white robes. It wasn't a white robe. I wasn't in a white robe, thank God. But I was wearing all white with a turban, a white turban. Thank you, Pamela, for the rose. Okay, thank y'all. It was so awesome connecting with all of y'all. Sending you so much love, joy, peace, prosperity, and abundance. Bye.